Charles Hathaway. Scott,
Present.
Scott Warner is here. Shane. Steele. Mike Roth and Patrick is running the controls. Craig Schulte, and we will start the meeting by approving the agenda and I don't have any questions on today's agenda, so let's move on down to the first item is the PFAS grant agreement. Let's see, that's not in order here. That is a oh yeah, that's the first thing, okay. We're gonna have, okay. Well, MPC has awarded the city of Grand Marais a grant to conduct PFAS testing. And we plan on sampling the following items. The leachate from Minnesota Power and Light, leachate from, the grant is $6,000. Testing is up to what, 12 to 15 tests, I guess is what they're going to do.
12 to 15.
And I'll have Scott, why don't I just have Scott explain a little bit about why we're doing this and how it works out and what the results, how the results may or may not affect us, I guess.
So the MPCA is pushing real hard to try to get communities and industries to get the PFAS out of the sewage, because the best treatment is don't use it in the first place. Or don't put it down the sewer. And so hits for PFAS. And so also WLSSD, the big wastewater plant in Duluth that receives our sludge.
Water to WLSSD?
We are.
We are.
Yes. We are.
Consistently all the time, or is it
We've only had one test so far.
one test that turned out positive, or one test?
One test, and it's, right now they're kind of doing.
Right, but it's definitely, so the G&G truck drives up, they pull a sample, test it, and they have found PFAS compounds. Did sludge from the plant, but that sludge from the plant does not include gray water hauled by G&G, septage hauled by G&G, leachate, right? It does.
It does include.
Because they bring those to our plant, dump it into the plant.
Yes,
Yep.
it brings,
And
yeah,
then-
so G&G sends it down the sewer pipe just like anybody in Grand Marais would. And then we treat
I
that
see.
through our whole process.
I see.
And then the bacteria grab onto that PFAS, or a lot of it. Some just goes out into the lake.
From your house.
What? I don't think so, Mike.
It's pretty ubiquitous.
Literally anything, if you have nonstick cookware, anything that's Teflon, if you have rain repellent clothing, that is PFAS. That rinses off in the wash machine and goes down the sewer. So it's in our blood. So your body is constantly processing through it.
I try not to bleed into my sink. But I do
Exactly.
It happens.
Well, Michigan has a problem with this.
PFAS is a really generalized term. It's hundreds or even thousands of compounds, of which there's only a couple that we know for sure are harmful, and we just don't know enough. And what we're trying to do is just gather information.
Mm-hmm.
Do we test our water?
Drinking water?
Our
Intake from
drinking
Lake
water
Superior for
has
that?
been tested for PFAS,
Okay.
and nothing is concerning. I'm sorry.
Below detection limits, is that what you're saying?
At this point in time, yes.
You say that like tomorrow it might be different.
It's, who knows what
Who
tomorrow
knows what
brings.
tomorrow will bring.
This kind of a test isn't a simple like pass-fail test though. You have to pick the compounds you want to test for. You have to have a test that's capable of looking for them, and I think that technology is still being developed. So the question that you're asking, are we detecting PFAS? 3 years ago, that would have meant something very different than it means today, and it probably will mean something different 5 years from now.
That's a good answer.
That's talked about more and more and more. You watch TV, there's somebody to come in and put in filter kits to filter your water and, you know,
This is Grand Rapids.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of those areas have sewer water, and a lot of neighborhoods that you would not think are on their own wells and septics, but they are. You don't see the septic sites because everything is sand, so you don't, there's no mounds, there's nothing like that, so I mean, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of stuff flowing in the water that nobody knows about, really, but. Yeah. To approve the.
Well, I mean, I didn't read through the agreement in any detail, but I mean, is there anything there to be concerned about?
No, it's just pretty much, we're gonna use the money to, pay for the cost of, the actual samples.
Right,
And then we'll take as many samples as we can, be it 12 or 14 or 15, however the math works out. And then,
Fuel LSSD, if they're asking, we really have an obligation to provide.
Right.
so when do you expect to have the testing done and reports in?
I will be doing it,
Periodic updates, I mean, it's sort of
Oh,
nice to
sure.
hear, like, say, you know, what the first quarter results, you know, it's not like there needs to be every moment by moment report, but if there's something comes in that's interesting or useful, whether it's no detection at all, or
yeah, I
a
can
big
put
hit
something
on this
together and
particular thing.
include it in a future board packet.
Kinda
That's
nice,
easy.
yeah, some little memo or something,
Yeah, that's
be
easy.
good.
Okay.
Anyway, I move to approve the acceptance of the grant.
Okay. Solar interconnection process and policy. Shane, you might have to guide me through this one. I
Yeah.
did read a little bit. I mean, it's kind of more or less, it's a policy that's going to help guide our,
So we've got the interconnection policy in place, and it's been in place for a couple years, and we just felt like it was time to review the process just so that we're all familiar with it, and then take a look at some policy scenarios that back at the time of the writing of this memo were just some scenarios that we might encounter in solar interconnection customers. Now they're not scenarios anymore, they're actual, real world, and their software, the Nova Power Portal, to help customers go through our interconnection process. So STAR is an engineering service that provides us with the engineering review that our solar customers get when they apply for a solar application. And so the process, it's on this second page of my memo. It's get the infrastructure in place and tell that to STAR, and then STAR does an engineering review, and there's contracts, and this is all done in the Nova Power Portal. And then the system gets installed, and then we go out and we inspect the system, and we turn it off and we turn it back on, and we make sure that it doesn't produce power for 5 minutes. It's in the construction happens whenever their installer gets to come up here and do it, and then we test soon after that, and they're approved to operate.
Yeah, I think it was a couple of years ago, but I think my installer really went through most of this itself, and so I had
Yep.
very little to do with any of this.
And the installer typically fills out the application and does most of the corresponding with
This is how we do it, but there's
Yep.
no particular problem with
Nope.
what's going on.
it's what we do. Yep, and it's something we've been doing for a few years. It's more than just a 1-page application that they fill out at City Hall. This is an in-depth process with engineering screenings and reviews of every stage of it, and this is 25% of my time just managing this process. Right now we've got 4 ongoing applications. They're all in the install phase, so I'm just waiting for the installer to finish the build, and then they get in touch with me and say, when can we schedule the test? We want to turn this on as soon as possible.
Okay.
what is SIMPA?
To them what our,
So in the STAR, they're in the phase of the installation part of it?
Yeah.
Or do they stay with it?
They track the application just like I do. They do the engineering review. They look at the one-line diagram of this, of the install and make sure that it's up to the work for some reason and I wanna have it. Or our lineman will also be able to contact them and say, why is it that we're seeing this or that? So they're helpful to have because they are the experts in the, like, the solar, like, electrical wiring and the codes for the state requirements and stuff like that. Look at that and suggest, maybe you would want a bigger transformer here. They've only suggested that once. And we took that suggestion,
So is there a state of Minnesota electrical inspector that's involved in?
Yeah, and frequently STARS engineers reject one-line drawings for various reasons. They're incorrect or they don't meet certain specifications. So I'll get multiple one-lines because STAR is rejecting them because these solar installers, whoever drew it didn't do it right. So they're really helpful to have because I would look at it and know nothing.
Yeah.
So the one-line drawings are the,
And the way it works is their solar is generating and the power is used wherever it's needed first. So typically it's used in the home. And if there's more solar than load at the home, then it comes out to the grid. All of their solar goes through a production meter so we can see every single kilowatt hour they generate. But then their bi-directional meter, the one that's recording energy in and out, they only get compensated for energy going out.
yeah.
And so a few things about the rates. Minnesota law, you can generate 40 kW of solar at the retail rate, and we have to compensate them up to 40 at the retail rate. So we have, I think I had it on here on one of the pages, we have a 39.7 kW system, which is very intentionally below that 40 kW limit. And we're compensating them at our retail rate, which is 11.4 cents a kilowatt hour.
Where is that system? That's a pretty big system. What?
We can share offline.
Huh.
Electric data is confidential.
Okay.
Customer data.
And actually, I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head right now anyway, but,
It's a typical residence.
typical is 5 to 10 kW.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's quite sizable though when you go to 40 versus.
40 is significant. 40
Yeah.
is, what we have on the Public Works garage.
One customer has a battery, so their battery can be charged by their solar and then is also wired to power a few essential services in their house, like their fridge and there might be a space heater or
Oh, so they have
outlets or something, so that they can have a little bit of power if there's no.
a backup,
Yeah,
so they have battery storage.
yeah, and they referenced where they lived previously, having outages all the time, and so they wanted assurance that they weren't going to be.
Just it'll flow both directions. So that's part of what we do when we look at a solar installation is ask that question. And so it's also relevant for a battery. And because it's also a solar installation, that's useful. If it was just a battery, we may not get a chance to know about it, look at it.
Right.
That battery can also discharge.
40, they get the retail rate. Anyone exceeding 40, which we do have one customer who has exceeded 40 kW of solar, they get SIMPA's avoided cost rate, which I noted down there for 2025 is 3.3 cents a kilowatt hour. So it's significantly less.
What does that mean? The avoided cost rate? What is that?
So that's where the term comes from, but it basically means that's what their market rate is to purchase renewable power. And so it's what they're willing to pay any of our customers to be utility scale renewable power.
Do you know how that compares, again, just out of curiosity, with if they were buying coal generated or natural gas generated?
It's typically not fixed on any of them, right? With our, they get under contract for a lot of wind and solar, and so they know what the price is going to be. If they're producing it themselves, we know what the costs are. I don't know how it relates, but because it's a market-based system,
At that rate, no matter what. Even if you use that load on site, it's still treated that way. Ability to
Commitment.
have solar, yeah.
Do you have, I mean, I'm sure you have the data, but just generally, what are you seeing? Like, what's the graph look like? Applications received per year for new solar installations in Grand Marais?
Yeah.
Is it like
In 2020, the
Going on to
first
the-
year we did Nova, we had one.
2020?
In 2020, we had one. Before that, I think we had 5. So in 2024, we received 12 applications just in 2024. And I think we're on track to hit that this year as well. The solar industry is doing well. They are finding people willing to install solar. And so it seems like there's more and more applications every single year. And there's more and more companies installing solar each year.
yeah, but now there'll be less and less subsidies from the
Right.
federal government to pay part of the cost of installing, and so we'll have to wait and see
May
if that
affect it.
affects
Financial
rate.
part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about distributed generation and the Grand Marais Climate Action Plan, because the Grand Marais Climate Action Plan says that we want to decarbonize our electric grid mix, and the best way for a city the size of Grand, 90% carbon free by 2030, which is really an ambitious goal, and it's going to take a huge effort from them to get there, and then getting that additional 10% to fully net zero is an even greater lift for them. And while distributed generation, which is rooftop solar, is a great way for people to take action themselves and take initiative in decarbonizing their own footprint because they can generate their own power, it can also be a detriment to that goal.
I mean,
So here's how
Because it
it's
costs 3 times as much, so we can buy 1/3 of it at the price we have to pay for rooftop solar. We can buy quite a bit more at utility scale, and we've got to buy quite a bit more to get 90% carbon free.
So while
It's only a detriment at scale. You know, at this scale, it's not a detriment.
yeah. Okay.
So a solar customer selling us their excess power at 11 cents a kilowatt, we have to buy it from the customer at a higher rate, and that loss is what we would invest in the system, invest in the linemen, invest in the distribution and the rest of the infrastructure to keep the power on for everyone. And also that customer with solar on their roof, when the sun is shining, isn't paying us for the power they're using, they're generating their own. And so that to account how we can also then make it fair for the non-solar customers.
Is, like you said, there's a 3 or 4 cent gap in price there
About.
so that might,
And with
do you
40,
think that would ever change? I mean, think about that, if that, you know, at some point in time, is it gonna be